Welcome everyone to One Quantum Africa and to our weekly meeting. Thank you very much for taking time to be with us. Today we are going to have One Quantum Africa profile sharing by Rairo, Mukamuri, and I always think it's important to structure these talks in a way that we look at opportunities and challenges for Africa. So that is a recurring theme for me and for us as a community, I guess. Rairo is a software developer, and I've been fortunate to have taught him in high school. So it reflects a lot about his capabilities than my capability as a teacher for sure. But it's been a joy when we worked with these young people and to see him going places. And we'll see when I talk about the small things he has achieved from where he's come from. It's really been an amazing journey. As just a reminder that One Quantum is our effort to provide a stage, voice, and safe space for all active and interested in quantum tech globally. And for One Quantum Africa, it means in Africa, we want to equip our members with education and skills so that we can build a viable industry and we can allow them to contribute at the global level as well. Happening this week as well, I need to remind you that we have the Women in Quantum Summit, and it is strategically positioned during the time when we are wishing all the women across the world a happy International Women's Day. I wish we didn't have to do that and things were just as normal and all people were treated equally. But we have to advance that and make sure we get to a day when we don't need the days like women, where we celebrate women. We should celebrate them every day. So that Women in Quantum Summit is happening. It started yesterday. We usually start with learning sessions which are delivered by experts from across the globe, and following a keynote enlightening talks with stories and insights from women. Then we have a career fair where you can learn more about the job opportunities in quantum, the openings, the company cultures, and what is happening with hiring, what kind of people are they looking at, and what kind of profiles are standing out, and how you can also build yourself to land an opportunity in quantum. Today, I think it's a day dedicated to quantum machine learning as well. If you want to take a dive into that and learn about what's happening and what experts are seeing, especially on the side of applications, you can join them later on after this meeting, obviously. Then tomorrow we have a day focused on the Asia, Pacific, and African region. And every day there's a session to allow you to do one-on-one networking with all the attendees and speakers, which is a beautiful moment to network and grow your global community of friends in quantum. You can learn more about a lot of the things that we're working on here on those links that I've provided and my email that is provided at one. You can learn more about the Women in Quantum Summit 4 on the link provided. You can follow us on the various channels on social media and follow our newsletters where we try to keep you up to date with quantum tech developments and events. You can also enjoy some free data resources we have made available at QISdata.com, where we track the developments in the ecosystem and we try to derive insights and see where the industry is taking us. You can connect with me and keep this conversation going on the following handles and on the following channels on social media. And yeah, let's keep the conversation going and let's move quantum forward. So let me now introduce the speaker of the day, who's going to share with us what he has been working on and his journey. And remember that we are also building a platform where people from Africa can come and showcase their talent. We can celebrate their achievements, and we just get to also showcase local heroes so that young people in the continent can look forward to people who are like them and who are working from the same circumstances as they are, and they can see that it is possible to contribute globally from Africa. You don't necessarily need to relocate. You can start with what you have where you are today. And for quantum, for example, because of open access and these communities that have obviously enjoyed the tailwinds from COVID-19 and work from home and the connected global community online, there's a lot that we can still do from where we are just by having an internet connection and accessing resources. and also accessing communities. Rairo is a technologist with a passion for artificial intelligence, specifically its application in healthcare and agriculture, which are huge industries in Africa, as well as areas where we still have a lot of challenges. He recently did a tutorial called Fruit Classifier that won the Global First Place Award for the 2020 Facebook Developer Circles Community Challenge in English tutorials for beginners category, in addition to the regional award for Sub-Saharan Africa. He has also won the 2020 HCL Pink Data Award for best use of data and analytics to raise breast cancer awareness. Rairo is a former systems development consultant at Econet, which is Zimbabwe's largest mobile network operator, and has experience in web and mobile software development, as well as machine learning. He will share with us today his career journey, how he gets to be where he is, and also try to contextualize the role of quantum in machine learning and other things that he has been working on, especially looking at it as a developer based in Africa. Next week, we are going to hear from Lesedi Modise. She is a Managers and Acquisitions Associate at Goldman Sachs and based in South Africa now, and to hear more about her next week, and we're going to share a profile in our newsletter as usual. So looking forward to that talk. And for those who joined us earlier, we had some interesting comments and insights from Lesedi. She's got an interesting perspective about Africa, and she's working on some interesting problems that if she's prepared, she's going to share with us next week. So thank you very much. And I will get off here and allow Rairo to come through.
And so forth. I did also have a few failures of startups, one a healthcare one, and the other an education one, which is most recent. This took me to meet new people, like in Slack groups, as well as in communities like Masakane, which is an African community for natural language processing. And I got to do some work for an Indian company, and now I work for a Canadian startup, which is into marketing analytics. So my presentation today is to talk about my experience as a machine learning developer in Africa, my journey, how it's been molded, and where we are going as a continent. So as an overview, I'm mostly interested in AI's applications in healthcare and agriculture, mostly because as a continent with a whole lot of youth, I think our health and wellness are going to be useful in the coming decades, because we have a long way to go as developing nations to improve our societies, to improve our industries. I'm going to talk about the challenges also, and also the communities which are there in machine learning, and also about the role of quantum machine learning in helping overcome challenges. So in healthcare, there have been promising results, like actual state-of-the-art results in identifying respiratory diseases using transfer learning on X-ray images. Transfer learning is a technique which was developed by a community of researchers and perfected by researchers from Microsoft with their ResNet algorithm, which uses learning of previous data onto new data. So the ResNet was trained on millions and millions of images, which is probably practically impossible for most developers or even most organizations here in Africa. But it achieved state-of-the-art results. So now the technique is now to use knowledge of those features onto new data of images. So it doesn't matter which images you are training on. They found out, like, it was trial and error really, that most features are the same. It doesn't matter if it's a car or it's a bird. There's color, then there's shape. So in that instance, in healthcare in particular, diagnosis of respiratory diseases via X-ray images has proved to be successful. So in countries where there are few radiologists, few medical professionals, this has proved to be helpful in diagnosing diseases like emphysema. There's also a startup like started by Zimbabwean, a neuroscientist called the AFIA app, where they monitor behavior of patients with chronic conditions and share that data with medical professionals in order to improve health outcomes. They've got, I think, over 50,000 users in Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique, I think. So that shows that machine learning is being helpful in Africa, and it has a lot of potential and there's a lot of potential for it. Sorry, I'm waiting for my slides. So in agriculture, I did a personal project using PyTorch and Fast AI to train data collected by Crowd AI, which is a startup which collects data on all sorts of things. So they had an agricultural data with plant images, and I used it to develop an image classifier for plant diseases. I developed it as a web app, as a mobile app, as well as a Facebook bot, Facebook Messenger bot. So I found it could be helpful because last year I have an uncle who was farming tomatoes, and he lost 2/3 of his crop in one cycle because of misdiagnosis. So I think like as a continent, we are facing food shortages because of pest diseases and stuff like that. And I feel like AI has a role to play in helping us be efficient in the way that we grow our food. So in the same way transfer learning has transformed healthcare, it has also transformed agriculture. And these are low resource models which can be developed anyway and can help in ensuring our food security. So the potential for, I guess, for AI in both healthcare and agriculture is getting it to be precise, getting it to be focused on specific use cases. So this requires collection of multiple streams of data, and as well as more computational power. And I feel like quantum machine learning has a role to play here. In that multidimensional data, as it stands right now, requires a lot of computational power, requires a lot of research, and it's something which are quite challenging even for big organizations. So this is an example of how a precision agricultural design would look like. This in regards to soil and air quality, as well as looking at crop parameters. So in this instance, we would have in a field of crop, we would have to put sensors in the air, put sensors on the crop, and put sensors in the soil. So there's been a breakthrough using the same neural network that was used to classify biomedical images, and it's called the UNET. It has also been used to classify roots in soil, and has been successful in optimizing soil structure. So for a farmer to have these kinds of sensors, to have to collect all this data, needs a lot of hardware, needs a lot of research, and a lot of computational power, which I think QML is going to solve in the future. So at the moment, some of the biggest challenges facing African AI developers is that data is not readily available. Depending on your use case, sometimes you'd have to go out into the world and collect it yourself. There are also very few researchers, so when you hit roadblocks, there's not help available, as well as access to hardware and computing power. So some workarounds would be to use like online resources, like the two biggest ones from Google, which is Kaggle and Colab. Kaggle, which is a data science community, which hosts competitions and also discussion forums on how to solve different data science problems. And Colab allows you to run notebooks in the browser using Google's hardware. There's also GitHub, where there are open source code samples, which can be helpful when developing machine learning models, as well as online courses and research papers where you can read upon scientific breakthroughs uh, and also the accompanying code. And communities in Africa are also helpful, like Zindi, which is a lot like Kaggle, but without their competitions and discussion forums, as well as learning and job opportunities. And they work close together with Masakani, which is a community which has grown so much in the past year, where uh, they are trying to uh, translate English into different African languages, as well as build custom NLP models, like getting named entities, uh, in the same way that European languages have been developed. Because in the future, most applications are going to be automated, starting with bots. So African languages have been lagging behind a bit, and Masakani and Zindi are working closely in terms of classifying news articles, developing mental health translations, and also developing machine translation models. One Quantum Africa, which is the community we have here for QIS research, development, discussion, and collaboration. And as QML progresses, I feel like these three, just in the same way that Kaggle does with multiple communities, will be useful for Africa going forward. So the promise of quantum machine learning is that with the research so far, it reduces training time required. So reducing training time also reduces the cost of hardware resources. Because let's say you are hosting a model on AWS. AWS charges you per minute or per hour, depending on the resources that you use. So if you get to reduce the time, you also get to reduce the cost. And also hyperparameter tuning is also a big thing when improving models. And it's mostly done by trial and error as it stands, but given QML can automatically change hyperparameters, researchers will have time to do other things, because it reduces the time taken to improve models. And the big thing is going to be about precision agriculture and healthcare, because QML can handle multiple tensors, multiple dimensional data, and process it very fast, while also reducing the loss function. So this means QML will help us achieve like state-of-the-art results quicker in both healthcare and agriculture. And also one thing which is very promising is the development of libraries like PennyLane from Xanadu, which combine the power of deep learning and QML in the sense that since developers know how to train neural networks, Xanadu developed a way that's similar in QML. That way, a community can quickly grow around those libraries and produce promising results. So this is an example of a COVID chatbot which I developed early last year, beginning of the pandemic, to raise awareness regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. So I like chatbots because the way a chat interface has been made has been standardized. So you can change so much in the backend without actually your users noticing. So it can improve gradually over time, and your users will just notice the results, but without actually changing the user interface. So in this instance, I used the Dialogflow, which is a natural language understanding engine developed by Google, and I developed a webhook to handle intents from the World COVID API and also from a local API to bring test results and statistics regarding COVID-19. And I attached a knowledge base to Dialogflow from the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control, as well as from the Ministry of Health Education, Ministry of Health and Child Care in Zimbabwe. So in this case, this bot, I developed it under the free tier of Heroku, which gives 500 megabytes of RAM and as well as 500 megabytes of storage. So what Google helps me here would be natural language understanding, as in holding small talk, like a unique conversation. But I can also add a state-of-the-art model from Hugging Face where it simulates conversation in the way a human would do. But I can't do it without a big computer server. I would have to get a costly server from AWS for me to be able to deliver it to the users. But with QML, the results would be instant, and I would get the same results under the free tier on Heroku as I would developing a normal system. So I feel like QML is going to transform the way we will view and use applications, be it mobile, automated ones, or the way we, or even like big models like in self-driving cars. So I would say the decade ahead is going to be exciting. So this has been the end of my presentation, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Rairo. Really an inspiring story and journey. Yes, Terrio, you can unmute yourself and come through.
I was just applauding, but since I have the microphone, thanks for the talk. Do you see many organizations using chatbots in your region at this point?
Yeah, there has been use like in the for e-commerce in particular. Like there's the banks and supermarkets are beginning to use them, especially with the pandemic.
Do you expect that to grow substantially over time?
I'm not sure yet because the data is not yet out on how the use is. But from just my experience, I feel like users like them because I don't think like customer service has been quite difficult here in Zimbabwe in the way that sometimes they're not readily available, and sometimes solutions are also not readily available, and users have to wait on the phone before even talking to someone. But with chatbots, you get your results fast and stuff like that. So it would be interesting to see whether they adopt it even when we get out of the pandemic, when things get back to normal per se. But I feel like it's an area of huge potential.
You know, yesterday, just for conversation's sake, yesterday I needed a conference got canceled for being in person, so I needed to cancel the hotel reservation. And at first I couldn't find how to cancel it online. So I called a hotel, and while I'm talking to the person in the hotel and she goes to her supervisor to figure out how to cancel a hotel reservation, the chat box appeared on my screen, and we, the chat bot and I canceled it before the person came back from her supervisor. So you know, that's a win for the chatbot community there. What so in your personal journey here, what's the next thing that you think you need to learn to move your career forward? You know, technology wise or anything wise. What's that piece of knowledge that you need to work on to develop next for your journey?
I think it has to be reinforcement learning, which is the same software used in self-driving cars, used in games. So the theory is about maximizing reward, where the computer gets to make its own decisions without being like explicitly trained and stuff like that. So that's where I want to look at next.
Thank you.
Sounds good. So thank you very much for that. And when you had the conversation about chatbots, I'm one person who really doesn't like to wait for customer service. And like Rairo said, in Zimbabwe, for example, the mobile network operators have been struggling with calls. Like they haven't been expanding their ability to handle calls with the volume of users that they've been gathering over the years. So waiting on that line for customer service has been bad. But now I think Rairo was also involved in developing for one of the mobile network operators that you can simply chat with a bot, because some of the problems you don't need human intervention in most cases, I guess. Like you simply need to be directed to where the resources are. And for example, for cable TV, I've noticed already right now you no longer get to have a conversation with the assistants unless if it's necessary. Otherwise, you could go on WhatsApp, you chat with the bot, it checks your account, tells you the balance and all that. So I think hoping that they're going to sustain that, and like he said, waiting for the data to say, are we having more users having access to that, and what is their experience, and can that be sustained? So it's really interesting to see how it unfolds as we go. So yes, it's open time for a conversation with Rairo. You can unmute yourself and come through and add to the conversation, or ask him anything, or add something to what he has already said in terms of the discussion we're having today.
Yes, hello, Farai.
Yes, you can go ahead, Abdul.
Yes. So how's everything? I would like to thank you very much, Rairo. It was a great to hear about quantum machine learning here in Africa, and hear all about the possible applications of machine learning and AI in general. I just wanted to add something that you talked about the chatbot and stuff. Actually, here in Libya, for the last for the last 6 months or 1 year, it become a very popular thing for a lot of telecommunication services here, especially that the big companies that dealing with hundreds of thousands and even millions of customers. They've actually they're considering now using chatbot in their services, and we've actually seen some startups here that are startups that actually rely on machine learning and some of these techniques to enhance the customer services. What I just wanted to go by here, or I just wanted to give you some note, or just to ask you something like, in your own perspective, you're now one of these I could say one of the most important ones here in our community in One Quantum Africa. What do you think that uh, the most important things that we should really focus on in a way of building a really strong community towards quantum machine learning and its applications, like in your own perspective? You've dealt with you dealt with some problems. You have gathered some information about how we could really, make things go faster. That's why we really, uh, what are the main things that we could work on.
I would say like demonstrating how quantum machine learning is going to help our applications going forward, how it's going to improve our lives. I think that will be the biggest attraction. Like people want to know, like how exactly is this going to improve our lives? So as developers, we would want to know how it's going to improve our applications. So at this point in time, people will be looking at it like, like how deep learning was in the 90s, where it's like magic, like people who do it uh, are not really taken seriously. Like I remember a joke where robo advisors were being laughed at on Wall Street, but right now there are hedge funds who are doing doing well with just AI applications uh, running portfolios. So I would say like we would need to demonstrate like how quantum machine learning is going to be applied to our applications, to our way of life. I think that way will attract like more people to the community.
Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thank you for that. Yes, Taban, you can unmute yourself and you can go ahead.
Uh, Thank you. Rairo, I've got a question.
Sure.
Um, how would you feel, right? Like in your own perspective, should we make robots? Should we make bots that have got waterproof circuits, cause in farming to replace the farmers?
Uh, in what sense? Like to replace farmers on the field or?
On the field so that the work will be done much faster and easier.
Oh yeah. I've seen a friend of mine developed like some feeding troughs which can be automated and some feeding troughs which can be automated like for both cows and chicken. So I don't know about it being waterproof, but the prototype could be controlled via Bluetooth or wirelessly via mobile network. So I think it's something which could work. Yeah, you're right.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so that's interesting. So we also have to mention and highlight that we've got some young people in the group as well. The attendees, Tabani is only getting to Form 2, so that's more like getting from that's your middle school here in Zimbabwe in Africa. And we also have Mulaki, who is a high scholar. And we're happy that we begin to see these young people coming through and also learning about the conversations that we are having. So I just thought I would highlight that. It makes you understand their fascinations and the things that they are looking at. I would say, Rairo, how did you decide to participate at a global level, like for Facebook challenges, for pink data, etc. Looking at all these young people who are also joining us or who may be looking at contributing globally like you have done. How has that been? Has that been more of you or it's been an opportunity that was available to you? How would you frame that? What kind of advice would you give to other people who want to contribute globally from Africa and who are based here in Africa?
Well, I would say this comes with the internet itself. Like thanks to the internet, you are no longer limited to the community around you geographically. You have the world at large. So my global participation started with the pandemic actually. So remember, they started with it's only 3 weeks with everyone locked down until we flattened the curve and whatnot. So then I was uh, building. I was like rather digitizing like small businesses in Paris. So my work would mean I would have to go out and talk to small businesses and get to teach them about the internet, build websites for them and stuff like that. So within those 3 weeks, it means I would have to be home. So I just started with I need to build 3 apps in 3 weeks. So with looking for resources, talking to people on Slack groups like the Masakani one, which is an open online community, as well as going on platforms like Zindi, Kaggle, and DevPost. I got to meet a lot of people because most hackathons before the pandemic were limited to geographical location, like in the USA. But starting with the pandemic, every hackathon has now been open to worldwide audiences. So I got to make friends, some in India, some in the USA, who I interact with, and we compete in hackathons together. So I would say, like, starting April last year, I think I've been competing in hackathons every weekend since then. So with that, I got to develop a community. Like I'm now into like blockchain development, something which I never imagined I could do, because a friend of mine in India is, who I've never met, is something which he does like full time. So, and as you can see, if you've been following the news, financial news in particular, you can see the interest surrounding Bitcoin, the interest surrounding Dogecoin, the interest surrounding like decentralized finance and stuff like that. So I would say the internet is you should always like look for resources, be it research papers, be it a community you want to join, be it videos you want to see about how things work. Like you can start there.
Amazing, great stuff. I'm doing this while I'm waiting for anybody from the floor who has got questions. Muwaki, if you don't mind, I'll put you on the spotlight. Being in high school yourself, what do you think about this discussion, and what can we do to support more people in high school to come on board and understand these opportunities that are arising out of the pandemic and are likely to be great opportunities to take advantage of, in the case that you can contribute, Mwaki?
Yes. I think that's a great question, because I think personally I've been asking myself that same question very recently, and been trying to seek out opportunities. And I really do think it's about sort of being the bridge between um, high school students who could potentially have interest in these things, and maybe the actual places where they could find information about growing in their knowledge about quantum computing, about machine learning and artificial intelligence. Because I think there's obviously a vast expanse of knowledge that is readily available, but not everyone is completely aware of how to find it or where they should look in the first place. And I think that's sometimes the problem a lot of high school students have, where they are very interested in these things, but because many of them feel they have obligations and other things that are going on to sort of take on something like this, it requires a bit more guidance and even to some extent hand holding, just to link them up with the places where they can truly, learn resources to learn more, I think.
Sounds good. Sounds good. We would want to know how we can support you to bring more people from your school and from your community, like, so that we speak more or in the language that you guys understand, and we get to give you that guidance or give you that exposure that you're rightfully indicating. Yes, Terrio, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to ask to follow up on that comment. What so these young folks may not recognize the opportunities or don't have the guidance on all that. What's the best way to communicate with such folks nowadays, to make them aware of the opportunity that exists out there? Because there are lots of programs and even mentors programs starting to form now, and I think it's a matter of figuring out how to communicate to them. For example, here in the United States, I run a high school program for quantum training, and that's the biggest challenge I have, of figuring out how to get to those individuals who are out there and all over the country, and in fact, and for you folks all over the continent, frankly, that I just haven't figured out entirely a great way to reach them in a effective manner. Currently, what I do is, for example, I try to go through the schools here, but your infrastructure and social structure there is completely different. How would the quantum community reach out to those kids out there who are interested in, curious about the world and technology specifically? What's the best way to reach them?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think, Mwaki, where did you get to know about us, and where can we reach your friends?
That's actually very interesting. It's somewhat of a long story. I personally, I think, learned about quantum computing maybe just a bit over a year ago, and I'm a person very interested in all things math, physics, computer science, and happened to stumble upon this one YouTube channel that took me to the KissKit YouTube channel, where you had a lecture just a few weeks ago that they posted, and from that I think I found you on LinkedIn, and I saw some people were speaking about the community, and then from there I sort of developed. I got involved from there. But I think in terms of how we can, I guess, get more younger children interested in this, I think the pandemic in a sense has created this very good opportunity, in that since we can now have um, conversations like this that are online, over Zoom or whatever platform, there are so many more people who otherwise could not be reached that I feel could be reached. I think the approach that had been spoken about going to schools, for instance, is one thing that's maybe a lot more feasible now, since sometimes it may be as simple as sending an email saying you want to have a talk at the school about this or into developing this. But I think it really is, I think from my personal experience, the fact of the matter is so many people have no clue what quantum computing is, not even the most basic clue. And it is a problem of how we can then reach everyone and what platforms we can use. But I think social media channels may be building a bigger social media presence, since obviously a lot of young people are on social media, for instance, and maybe having student ambassadors as they come along who can again speak about what quantum computing is all about and the future there is for that. I think it really is, as people have been speaking about, meeting people where it's at. So with the pandemic and everything being digital, I think it really has become so much easier to do that. And I truly think if there may be more initiatives to maybe try and get people to go to schools with this information, and again maybe developing social media presences that are encouraging a lot more student involvement, I think that could be a way forward. But I'm really just spitballing here, and I'm just sort of coming up with ideas on the fly. But those are just some things that I guess I've seen work in other communities, and I think could work here as well.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mwaki. And how many of you young people or what gets you to have a LinkedIn account, for example, or do most of the young people have a Twitter account, a Facebook account, a LinkedIn account, are they in WhatsApp groups? Where are the people? Where are your friends? Where do you meet all your community, if I can ask?
Definitely not normally LinkedIn. LinkedIn tends to be for people who are, I guess, more interested in very specific professional oriented careers, or just, in my experience, very ambitious, I guess. But I think where you find most people my age would definitely be on Instagram and Twitter. I think they both offer different advantages, but I think you'll find the vast majority of them there, and those are often really incredible tools of just sharing and disseminating information.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. I hope, Terry, you got answered in some way. Sounds good. Rairo, my last question to you was going to be, how has been collaboration looking like on your projects in Africa? Do you think developers in the continent are connected? I heard you talk of Masakane and all that. What's your take on how we are working together across the continent to support each other and work on solutions that are big, solutions for big problems in the continent? And what do you think we should do to foster this cross collaboration in the ecosystem and build solutions that matter and solve the most difficult problems in the continent?
Yeah, I think collaboration is less than what it should be. Was looking at other ecosystems all over the world, um, how collaboration is driving innovation. In Africa, it's less than what it should be, which is why Masakani in particular impresses me in the sense that they just started and they've got to drive results in just a short space of time, because we have people from all over the continent like collaborating, contributing to the GitHub repositories, contributing to improving machine learning models, and even physically writing, annotating names of objects in different languages. So I would say I would take their model, let's say they want data for a certain language which is low resource. Like they would set up a hackathon and open it up to everyone to find solutions, and I think that fosters collaboration.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for that. Any other questions from the floor, or else I have to acknowledge and thank the presence of Stanley from Bolivia, Eduardo as well. You could unmute yourselves, guys, and let's hear about you, about Brazil, about Bolivia. We're aching to hear about Latin America in a way, perhaps in the context of this discussion. If you've got anything you want to say, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Stanley. You can go ahead.
Hi, how are you been? Well, I want to first thank you for the presentation. And here I have a simple question. What do you think about the prospect about the inversion around the startups in your countries? How do you feel the environment around the inversion in startups, around the technology that we are currently building, maybe in the side of applications powered by machine learning, or even in the side to applications that are prospect to be powered by quantum technology?
Okay. Rairo, you can take that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in Zimbabwe in particular, the money market has been, I would say, destroyed twice in the last 10 years. So investors have been reluctant to put money into anything really. So without that appetite from investors and without also research-focused universities, startups which try to solve big challenges will be few and far between. But I've seen success in other countries like Nigeria and Kenya, and maybe South Africa in some instances, where some startups are actually coming up with good solutions to big problems. So I think our ecosystem has a long way to go until it achieves an environment necessary for startup growth.
Okay. Yes, Ishmael, you can go ahead.
Nice to meet you, Farai, finally.
Thank you very much for coming through.
All right. I was going to contribute like this in terms of trying to create awareness. I'm going to give you an example of what we once did sometime in one of our groups for software development. Back in the days, we used to have a Computer Society of Zimbabwe, which used to be quite strong. But then after 2000, its vigor kind of went down. But then a group of developers ended up meeting. They came up with a membership organization, which was affiliated to Computer Society of Zimbabwe. And then through their forum, they would engage some government representatives, for example. I think at some point, I remember we invited a cabinet minister to come and hear us back then. And the effort from that angle ended up making our government aware of the need for ICT initiatives, in that, to the point that the government ended up running campaigns for, donating computers, creating some ICT program in schools, all that culminating from an effort of some people that decided to do something like this, like what you're actually driving. And I honestly and totally appreciate this. And I believe that it can actually go a long way. So it's quite good that we're actually doing this. And but to catch the young ones, I'm impressed by that. Sorry, I've forgotten your name. That guy was informed too.
Oh, Tabani is informed too. And yes.
Yes, I'm totally impressed. So I thought that if we could tailor make this as well to go along that particular route, if the government really understands all this concept of quantum, because it's totally new to them, then I'm sure with there could be support from there in terms of creating awareness, in terms of making available, in terms of making resources available to schools, like what they've done now in ICT. I'm sure right now they've introduced an ICT as a subject from primary school right up to Form 6. So all that can actually work towards, using such a particular model can actually help in creating awareness on this. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much, Ishmael. Really appreciate it. And this is why the community needs everybody, and so that we exchange these experiences, and we don't reinvent the wheel, especially where other people have managed to find a way around it. I really appreciate it. So yeah, let's keep this conversation going, and we'll reach out to you and work on finer details on how we can make this community reach out to more people and be more inclusive as well. So that sounds good. Yes, Eduardo, you can unmute yourself and contribute as well.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and meet you all. I think that this is important because we are living in such a critical moment that we can contribute and even make change in this quantum technology environment, because it's so new that anything can change from day to night. I think that we can join our forces by providing what we are best at. So it's not a matter of always with budget or the best universities, but what I can see from these years of experience from startups and communities is that we having we have such a global effort to develop the either quantum machine learning or quantum computing, and there are many creative people around the world, and they can really do something that can have such a high impact in the world. And maybe they are not proficient in English, but they can do either way. It's a matter of how you can reach those people. And for that, I think that creating some programs like teaching kids in school or teaching kids in spare time about quantum with some games, or teaching like some programming language on quantum, uh, taking these baby steps from now, we can have in 10 years uh, these people developing such amazing things. So yeah, my idea is that I hope that we can stick together and make it happen like a global community. It's the time. We have all the resources. We have meetings, online meetings. We have Git. We have any kind of way possible to make it happen. So yeah, I really appreciate that we can do that, and I'm really glad that I know that there are being there are there have been such initiatives in Africa as this general approach, but I know that each country has its own difficulty, so maybe we can try to help where it fits our expertises, and we can get some help from who can help us. Um, I don't know, I may be too idealistic, but I think that we can do that. We can try to make it happen. And overall, it's a great pleasure to be here and to know you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. And it's really a pleasure to have you and to have been able to reach you as well. And like you said, to have an online community that is enabling us to connect and to make sure that everybody has got a chance to contribute. I'm not sure if there's anybody who still has something they want to contribute. Otherwise, it's time we leave it here and wait for next week. Like I said, we're going to hear from Lesette Modise. She's got an interesting background and is working on interesting things, and we hope to hear from her as well. I shared the link for so that you can join us for a cocktail soon after this. Let's hope you guys can make it. I know that it's during the week, you've got other commitments, so we can work on those. Yes, Abdul.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I just want to add some few things talking about the startup ecosystems and the communities here in Africa, and how the new startups could really emerge within the upcoming innovations and upcoming technologies and innovations. There's a big gap between the industries and the people that are, exactly the workforce that are working on these technologies ecosystems, because for the last four months or 5 months, I've been trying to spread the word around the technological ecosystem here in Libya, and I have reached out to some of the big governmental sectors and even private sectors that are working under some governmental sectors. They're actually, it's not about having the doubt of our local communities or our local workforce, but when you're trying to reach out to some of these people, they all of the time they tend to have some some interest on the foreign companies, on the foreign service providers, on the foreign in foreign companies such as Huawei, ZTE, and other those companies that they have their the governmental or even the big private companies here in Libya. They have the tendency to go to follow these big companies in their way of innovation and not rely on the local force. And when you try to talk to them and you try to seek the deep information behind their mentalities, it's all about the amount of time and amount of effort that they should really provide for these local forces. And this is the exact gap that we're suffering here in Libya, that the big companies, they don't rely on local forces. They rely on these foreign companies. This is a big gap, and this is actually a big problem that we're facing here in the startups ecosystems and the technological startups, to be precise, actually. So I just wanted to cover up on these on these notes, and just give you guys a heads up that we should really work on something here, like all of the startups ecosystems around Africa. We should, I don't know, maybe talking about a conference, or talking about a whole gathering around the continent, making the startups ecosystem much much more profitable, much more easier to get in for those that are that having the enthusiasm to start their own business in this technological era.
I hear you. I was attending a discussion, a forum on the African Free Continental Trade Area, and those are the issues. Procurement, we have to align with some of these goals in order to localize production and support the entrepreneurs in Africa. So I'm happy to hear this coming up in the different platforms where these conversations are happening. Because without government, so perhaps the first thing is, like Ishmael mentioned, to make governments understand the importance of technology, but it's not always easy. I understand that. So it's about taking first moves, I guess, building to an extent where we can with what we have from where we are, and lead regulation. Then at the same time, take a two-pronged approach, try to reach out and sound some reasonable people in government or people of influence, and getting people to appreciate about the importance of the solutions that we need to work on. And at the same time, perhaps at a policy making level, we eventually get to have these procurement systems being made in such a way that you can support your local entrepreneurs. I think recently in Zimbabwe, we had a case where government awarded a contract to the Judicial Services Commission. It is that contract was awarded to an American company, and we are saying, don't we have software developers in the country who can do that? I think it was simply about digital transformation, transitioning the Judicial Services Commission from a paper-based organization to where the end or court cases and all the cases are on an online system and searchable and accessible. And I think those are things that developers in the country can work on with enough support, where they are given the right infrastructure to do that. So yes, those are conversations we should keep on, taking forward. And perhaps, let's say, you can help us next week, and you can help us to unpack that as well. How do we work on these technology solutions where we are as young entrepreneurs, without so much of the support, especially from government sometimes, given that technology leads regulation most of the time. So it's not always easy, and perhaps a lot of the young people here would want to learn more about how to navigate that terrain. In case you've got anything that you think you can find on that and help us to look at it in that way.
I'll do my best. I'll give it some thought and I'll do my best.
Thanks for that. Cheers. So, well, thank you very much, Abdul. Thank you, everyone, for this meeting. I'm not sure if there's anything burning. Otherwise, our time is a bit beyond, and I've shared the link for the cocktail so that we can keep this conversation going and have one-on-one conversations about the other things that we can work on and the collaborations we can take forward. So let's meet at the cocktail. It's usually very, if you have time, I know. it's usually very good to make new friends there and to learn more about what other people are working on, and to build personal relationships, and build stronger local communities and stronger bonds amongst ourselves as well, and just explore areas of interest. So thank you very much, Rairo. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Stanley, Ishmael, Roy, Mwaki, Lorraine, Tavani, Lesedi, Esther, and everybody else. It's really a pleasure you guys were able to join us, and I really appreciate it. So let's meet on the cocktail and let's take the discussion forward. Be good and take care until we meet again next time.
Thank you very much, Farah.
Bye.